Everybody, welcome to News by Muse. Sharkfest is back starting July 5th. We have Candace Fields from Investigation Shark Tank and Dan Beecham from Sharks Up Close with Bertie Gregory. He's an underwater photographer. Candace is a marine biologist who are featured in the show. Let's start with Candace. Candace, what was it like to be a part of this series? Because it's so good.
I really enjoyed it, and I think, I at first was kind of nervous to be involved in a show that's title has Shark Attack in the name, right? Because, people are already naturally thinking about sharks as the bad guy. But I quite enjoyed being able to, look at these negative interactions in a way that we're not privy to typically in the media, right? You're typically just, shark has bitten a person, sharks equal bad. But this w was cool to basically say, well, yes, we acknowledge that this is an awful situation and it is devastating that it has happened, and we it's awful. There's no other way to put it, right? When that happens, but to look at it from the perspective of, but why, right? Nobody typically asks the why, or dives into the why, I feel like, on these shows, and I think that that was a cool thing to do, and to dive into the why from an angle of sort of shark biology and ecology and things like that. So I think that, I'm hopeful that the message comes across of sharks are important, and we as scientists and conservationists are not here to just say you should be on the side of sharks no matter what, but to give you the information as to why these sharks are in these areas in the first place, why there might have been an increased likelihood of an interaction happening in this instance. Um, all these factors that people can then take into account for the future when they're going into the water, and maybe will choose not to swim on a murky day or things like that, right? So I really enjoyed being a part of the show. Um, and it was nice to also be on a show that didn't have the stress of what happens if the shark doesn't show up, because we were just, that's the kind of crux of a lot of these things, but we didn't have that situation, so that was really nice.
Yeah, definitely. And with this first episode that comes out next week, you guys kick it off for Shark Fest. What this first episode is about bullhead sharks. We're looking at Texas, as a particular area, especially here in the United States. Next week, a lot of people are going to go out to the beaches, and with, let's be honest, 50 years of Jaws, a lot of people have in their mindset that it's constantly attack, like they're predators, they're coming after humans, when it's not the case. And I love the fact that the show really educates in the fact that it's not coming after you. It's living its life, looking for, yeah, it's feeding and it's going into close to beaches and close to humanity, but you're entering their landscape. And that's one thing I really love, is that the show really investigates that. And the fact that to teach kids and even parents that it's something to not you're concerned, but you shouldn't fear the fact of a shark being around.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where if you look at it, if you're playing strictly a numbers game, right? If you look at the amount of people using the water every single day, all over the world, right? Not just in Texas, in the episode you brought up, not just in Australia, Bahamas, whatever, but in the entire world, the amount of people using the water daily are hundreds of millions, if not more, right? If this was a real issue of, like, if you get in the water, something bad is going to happen, that those numbers wouldn't be the same, right? We would be taking a different mindset into having a casual beach day. There would be no such thing as a casual beach day if this was a legitimate threat that we had to be cognizant of every single time we stepped in the water. So, like you said, the Jaws mindset, which is sort of, built into people's heads, especially of a certain generation, is just not the truth of what's happening in the water, and it definitely not the truth of what's happening in these sharks' minds.
Yeah, exactly. And Dan, got in touch with, how was it working with Bertie Gregory? Because his shows visually are just at another level. And you really get to see up front what the habitat is like. So what is it like as a as a cinematographer to be capturing these images and also to capture them without disturbing the habitat?
Sure, yeah, that's a good question. It's great to hear that it feels like you're in the habitat because that's very much what we're going for. We kind of want the viewer to feel like they're coming along on these dives. And that's kind of my role on these shoots. Bertie's very much there documenting the animals, getting all those crazy close-ups of the sharks, the teeth, all the other creatures we're seeing. But I'm kind of a witness camera to him and those encounters he's having. So I always kind of try and move to make the viewer feel like they're a part of the environment, a part of the experience. And yeah, it is something that's always on our minds that we're perhaps affecting the animals by being in their presence. Um, with diving, a lot of that is about picking the right encounters, diving with the right animals at the right times, approaching the animals the right way. So with the example of the whales in the film that we're diving with the southern right whales. We very much position ourselves in the water so that animals come to us rather than us going to them. You know, the animals are choosing to come to us rather than being forced into a situation. So we position ourselves in a place in the water where the animals actually intersect with us rather than us going up to them. And these kind of shows, they give us a lot of time on location. So we were there shooting for 5 weeks, and that gives us the time to not pressure the animals too much. We're not in a rush, and you're going out to try and get the shots in a week or in a few days. So we give the animals plenty of time, plenty of space, and kind of let them pick when is the right moment for us to work with them.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing I'll do, I have to get nerdy now. Camera technology, what kind of cameras are you using to capture these shots? Because they're so amazingly well done. And second question that kind of ties in with it, are you ever worried that now in this day of social media and the way everybody has a camera, that people are going to try and imitate what you do and how you do it and affect the habitats of some of these species, not only sharks, but animals around the world where you guys are professionals, you know how to do it in the correct way, but other people just think they do because they watched you do it.
Yeah, it's a really good question. You might need to remind me to come back to the specifics on the cameras.
Yes, I will.
Um, so yeah, it can be an issue, and it's something that we in the industry kind of have a responsibility um, in when we're having these amazing experiences, and we're very much having these experiences to share these experiences. So we're going and filming things so the viewers at home can get to view them. There is very much the thing these days of Instagrammers chasing an experience for likes, which is just a thing that exists in the world these days. And certainly in some parts of the world, maybe in more developing parts of the world where they don't have strict permit systems in place, for encountering these animals, this can be an issue. The example I'm thinking of is diving with sperm whales. So I've worked with sperm whales in Dominica, and there they have quite a strict permit policy where there's one permit given at any one time. So that's either to a film group, a film crew, or to a tourist operation. So there'd only ever be one boat out diving with these sperm whales, and there's quite a few different pods of sperm whales. So they're not being pressured by dozens or potentially hundreds of people. I've dived in other parts of the world where they don't have a permit system like that. So anyone can go and jump on a boat, pay the skipper some money, and you'll be allowed to go and dive with these animals. And that is an issue. And it's obviously understandable that people would want to go and have these encounters themselves, and that's completely understandable. But I would say if you're that way inclined, make sure you're going with a reputable operator. Make sure you know the laws of the land. Make sure what you're doing is legal because you might be getting told it's legal to go and dive with these animals where it very well might not be. And that can affect animals long term. It can change their behaviors. It can push them out of certain areas, and those could be very critical habitats for those animals. Those animals might be there at that time of year because they're having young, so their animals might need to feed. So it is a good topic, and it's probably not a topic that's raised enough, honestly. It's something that's going to become more and more of a problem in this small world that we all share,
Mhm.
with these few very special marine events that can get very crowded, and it can make our jobs very hard as well.
It
In
also,
terms of
sorry to interrupt you, but I think it
no, no,
also lends to um, why some of these negative interactions are happening.
absolutely.
And we don't get that side of the story, especially with sharks. We don't hear the part of, well, this person jumped off their boat onto the top of the shark. We just hear person got bitten by the shark, right? And so we're not being provided with all the context, I would say 90+% of the time as to how or how this interaction occurred, right? Because these things are happening so quickly, and also, it's it's gonna get you the click to talk about vicious shark attack, not like tourists being silly. So I think that, hopefully shows like Investigation Shark Attack and all these shows give a little more context for maybe why these things might happen, and also discuss it from the perspective of, okay, well, was this a situation where a person was just doing their own thing, and they really did have this sort of majorly unprovoked uh, bite, or was this person kind of doing something that might trigger a shark to engage and at least check it out, right? So
Yeah.
I think, and same with sperm whales, same with any sort of predatory animal that can inflict damage. We have to take it into context. And I think all these negative interactions often lack context.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, I wish we had more time to talk about the camera gear, but we don't. We're already up. These interviews are so good.
Red Raptor VistaVision, medium compression, normally about 30 frames, 35 frames.
Yeah, so that's why it's like we go into so much and it's so interesting. I wish we had more time to talk with both of you because this is such an interesting topic. Thank you so much for stopping with us. We really appreciate it. And don't forget Shark Fest starts next Saturday, July 5th.